I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Yes or no? Did you ever take banned substances to enhance your cycling performance?
Yes.
I had no prior knowledge of the planned assault on Nancy Kerrigan.
I am deeply sorry for my irresponsible and selfish behavior I engaged in.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to Oops the Podcast. The dog days of summer are upon us. Be sure to grab some merch. OopsThePodcast.com. We got some cool shit. We got the Ryan Lynch's Pizza Pie tee. We got the Slide in the DMT. We got the sick new Oops logo tee. All at OopsThePodcast.com. We have some old styles up there as well if you're feeling nostalgic.
All fresh stuff. How's it going today?
It's going, bro. Come see me at the Stand on the 18th of July in New York City, the Ice House in Pasadena, the 3rd of August, and St. Pete Coastal Creative, 20th and 21st of September. People have been kind of asking me if I want to have a bachelor party, whatever. I'm leaning towards I do not. But if one had to say, what is the ideal bachelor party? What does it consist of? And my answer is a bachelorette party. A bachelorette party is better than a bachelor party.
And why is that?
Bachelor parties are so destructive. They're always involve substances and gambling and sex or sex sort of adjacent activities. And I've heard from many people that there are times in these like debaucherous bachelor weekends where they just feel like they're in a really dark place. A bachelor party shouldn't make you feel that way. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, bachelorette parties are wonderful. They have little games you play. They ask your fiance to say a bunch of stuff, and then they sit there and you see if you can answer the question correctly. Bachelor parties, they don't do that. They only do that at bachelorette parties. They decorate. Sometimes they all dress up like grandmas and go on a pub crawl. How fucking clever is that, dude? Mm-hmm. They play little games. They have the best weekend, and everybody leaves feeling loved, fulfilled. They've bonded with some new friends instead of had a threesome with two friends upstairs and couldn't look each other in the eye the next morning.
And then on the flight home, felt super sad and contemplated every decision that they've made throughout their entire life. And then also thought about the fact that they absolutely love their partner, and their actions on this trip were totally not in line with the person that they think that they are. Exactly. Yeah.
And do you want that, or do you want to have the bachelorette party? I think all day bachelorette party. Let us know what you think.
Yeah. Definitely, from my experience, I think I've been on 2 bachelor parties so far. I definitely want to implement a day of play with the boys. When we were on the last one that I was at, there were volleyball courts, there was a basketball court, there was basketball in the pool, and there was a small group of us that were just sweating it up, sober boy fun.
Nice.
Sober boy fun, and it was such a blast. And nobody was fucking anyone or cheating on their girlfriends or boyfriends. It was great.
It sounds like the Middle East. Like in Iraq, you'd go to these like men's hangout places where you play video games, you drink Red Bull, you play pool. Nobody's drinking alcohol. It sounds very similar. But yeah, I guess there's a way to do a more wholesome bachelor party. It just doesn't seem to be the norm.
Yeah.
And of course, there's a way to do a more sort of like ratchet bachelorette party as well. But the bachelorette parties that I've seen Hilda go to, or that like I've seen from other people I know on social media, just seem very wholesome. And they think of everything. They have a hibachi chef come to the house. They have a catered lunch. They go out. They do like, it's just perfectly planned from A to Z. And at a bachelor party, you're sleeping on the floor of the house. Like they didn't have enough beds. Why are men such fucking beasts?
I fucking hate the bed assignments on a bachelor party.
Brutal. Maybe it's because men are bigger. I'll give us that.
It's just not fun. You don't enjoy that time, especially when you're with people that you don't know.
Oh God.
It gets competitive. The last trip I was on, there were 18 fucking guys. We're in this massive house. It's like a big ass maze. We get in there and everyone runs around. 3, 2, 1, go. And everyone's running around fighting for beds.
You did that?
There wasn't like a starting line, like everybody go. Like there was
whoever got in first got a good bed.
It's always a competitive edge. You can't relax until you lay your bag down on a bed. And we got to there was like a group of us and we came in like 3 or 4 different Uber XLs. We got there first and we were greeted by the owner of the Airbnb because we were staying on like a big plot of land, and he was going to give us like a tour and stuff. And he wanted all of us to go with him so that if there were any questions and for any legal reasons, everything's taken care of and he can sign off that he was able to do what he needed to do. And the 4 of us went with him. The other 3 cars come, they get off, they walk in right past us listening to this guy, and they run like little fuckers to the bedrooms and they claim their spots. And I was stuck on a fucking bunk bed. Oof. A rickety twin-size bunk bed.
Were you in the top?
Top.
Ooh, was somebody on the bottom?
Yeah.
Dude, brutal.
And that's not fun. I feel like the girls wouldn't do that. The girls wouldn't do that.
At least you had your own bed. It was shitty though.
It was terrible. It was terrible. It made it not worth it.
Yeah.
It made me wish I didn't go.
Did anyone sleep on the couch or the floor or anything?
No.
That's good at least.
No, but it was just shitty. Like you walk into a room and like you're competing with other people for a bed. And like it's like very Hunger Games. It's just like Hunger Games at the very beginning where they go 3, 2, 1. Everyone runs to the
Wait,
center.
But you said they didn't do that.
I know, but that's the energy. When there's one big bed left after the fact, and you're competing with a stranger, and neither of you know where it is. Like there's like racing and pushing, and like it's like.
Is that what you're literally looking around to try to find the last room?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. So it just sucks. And bachelorette parties, I feel like that doesn't happen.
No, totally. They've figured it all out.
Yeah.
They've already made all the room assignments beforehand. It's a vibe.
It is a vibe.
For sure.
And you leave a bachelor party with a hole in your heart, and you leave a bachelorette party feeling wholesome. So.
Dude, I don't like waking up with other people in the place where I woke up.
Like the bedroom?
In the house. Like I'd rather just have my own space most of the time. I mean, there's certain scenarios where I'm more comfortable, but it's so nice. That's why I actually like being in a hotel most of the time more than like staying with friends, because I actually feel independent and like I can do whatever the fuck I want. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of having to worry about being a good guest. Anyway, we got an email about this topic, which is why I thought to bring it up, because I do feel strongly about that. But anyway, this dude says he has his bachelor party coming up in about 3 weeks. He's a loose outline of what he wants to do. They have one main event and a great place to stay, but the rest of the weekend is TBD. But I've been on other bachelor parties that were far less planned. Would love to get your thoughts on what goes into a perfect bachelor party: size, location, events, etc. He said, "Congrats again on the engagement, Julio. We actually got engaged at almost the exact same time. Shout out to Mitch." So anyway, we covered a lot of that, but if we're talking specifically about bachelor parties, Lynch, you've been on a couple recently. What would you say is the ideal size?
The ideal size would be 12 max. I think 12 max. I'm trying to think about like the things that you can do to set yourself up for success, and that revolves around like the essentials. I think it's very important to make sure that somebody takes care of like groceries, and that there is food and water for everybody, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
That's an important thing. Sorry, I'm cutting ahead. I'm cutting ahead. What do you think's the ideal size?
I mean, yeah, I think like 8 maybe.
Yeah.
But I get that it turns into a thing where people get offended, but like I've never met anybody who was offended that they were invited to a bachelor party, but I'm sure they're out there. That's probably a stupid comment. But 8 seems good because you can go out to a dinner and not look like an idiot. Like 18 guys at a dinner is ridiculous. Did you guys go out to dinner?
I left early. The night that I wasn't there, they went out for a big dinner.
Dude, yeah, like 18 guys at dinner. I just feel embarrassed. I don't want to be with 18 people at the same time in anywhere. Like, I don't want to be traveling in motion with 18 people.
Because with that many people, the odds are that there's going to be some crazy people in there. There's going to be some more timid people in there, and it's just not a cohesive squad. Eight can be cohesive.
8 can be cohesive. You're more nimble. It makes the sleeping arrangement thing easier. I think one thing that I'm thinking about this dude's bachelor party, and the problem is the idea is that the bachelor is not planning it, right? So, but I think that it's good to be thorough with the planning. Meaning if you have gaps where there's nothing happening, like sitting in a house with a bunch of your boys doing nothing is like not special.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it is because you all have wives or whatever and everybody's getting away from their wives, so it's fun to sit around and play video games or something. But it seems like having structure sounds nice.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you're not going to wake up and immediately start doing stuff. Of course, you can have some down chill time, especially if there's like a pool at the house or whatever's going on. But, try to plan it as thoroughly as you can. I think 8, did you say 12?
I said 12 max. I like 8.
Yeah.
But no more than 12.
Yeah. 8 solid, 12 pushing it, but can be done. 18's a lot. And the other thing too, with 18, it's like, unless you have somebody who has already pre-planned all of the pricing, it can get crazy with like paying and Venmoing and this and that. So it's like, you just want to make sure you're with a good group too, because if it's an 18 person thing, you're probably prepaying, somebody's on the hook for it all, and everybody needs to pay them back. And it can get ugly. This episode of Oops, the Podcast is brought to you by BetterHelp. Lynch, how is your push to kind of limit your social media use going?
It's going all right. I'm doing the best that I can. You're on social media a little too long. You start to compare yourself to others. And it's just not a healthy habit. You don't know what people are really going through. You just see what they post online. You start to compare yourself to others. We've talked about that on the podcast before. And so I'm just looking for different tools and ways so I can just focus on me, improve myself, and find ways to push forward in a positive way.
Yeah. And look, Lynch, I respect you kind of going out and trying to find ways to kind of help soften the blow of some of the external pressures of life in modern society. But guys, look, if you ever feel like it's too much or you feel like you need help, there is absolutely no shame in talking to somebody about it. That's why we think BetterHelp is a wonderful tool to link you with the right therapist for whatever your needs might be, whether it's some of the things that we're just talking about or whatever is going on in your life, whether you feel stressed or pressured, or even if you just feel normal. I think that talking to somebody to kind of get a perspective about how you're living your life. The thing that's so great about BetterHelp, which I wish that I had it earlier on, or that it existed earlier on, is that it's much easier to find the right therapist. I feel like when you are with a therapist in real life, if you don't think they're a great fit, it kind of can take longer to get paired with a new person, or maybe that's all who they had available there. And then you need to find a new place. And it turns into this complicated logistical thing, which might lead you to just be like, all right, whatever, forget it. I'll just stick with this person. And if I had just had BetterHelp, how easy it is to switch to a different therapist is wild. BetterHelp is great for finding the right therapist, not just because you can switch so easily, but because you answer a bunch of questions at the beginning that help you find what kind of therapist you might need. And in doing that, you probably won't even need to switch because you've already sort of vetted people. And as you're picking someone, they give you a bunch of options. You see what their strengths are, and you can get an idea of who might be the right fit for you. Whether you're looking for somebody who is LGBTQ plus friendly, or you're looking for somebody who specializes in relationships, or whatever that might be, BetterHelp has got you covered. It's quick, it's convenient to get set up, and then once you are set up, it's 100% remote and super duper convenient. Anyway, stop comparing and start focusing with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/oops today to get 10% off of your first month. That's BetterHelp, betterhelp.com/oops. Dude, I got an interesting DM the other day, and I thought it was pretty funny and worth talking about. This dude, Jeff, who listens to the show and came to my show in Philly, shout out to Jeff. He was saying, he's like, let's get into the real issues, man. I'm like, all right, like, what are you talking about? He's like, and then he said, to Leo or not to Leo? And I found that to be a very interesting concept. I think he's referring to Leonardo DiCaprio.
Okay.
And his lifestyle and how he sort of unapologetically goes through, a model every quarter or whatever the timeline typically is. We've heard sort of notorious stories about the way that he has sex with AirPods in or whatever.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah. A couple like models said that, like top models. And, I've said this before on the show, but he is setting himself up to be the sort of Brando of our generation. I can think, as far back as, I guess, Brando is the one that comes to mind, just because before whatever generation came before that, I guess I don't know who would have been the predecessor in that generation before of movie stars once there was talking movies, but Brando, then Jack, and then Leo. These guys are lifetime bachelors. They eventually completely let go of their appearance. Leo appears to be beginning to put his toes in the water of letting himself go. A lot of good dad bod footage, and wouldn't be surprised to see him turn into a blob who continues to just get it in. And it's an interesting thing to examine. So the question is Is that desirable or not? Do people just not do it because they can't? Or do they not do it because it's ultimately not a thing that most people want to do?
I think it's something that most people don't even get the choice to do.
Right.
Leo is, he's trapped in the brain of a 13-year-old or whatever it was when he became famous. So I feel like we can't put ourselves in his shoes. But if I was Leonardo DiCaprio, I would probably do it the exact way he's doing it. I would Leo very hard.
So that's a good point you make, where it's like most people don't have the choice. You kind of get whoever you can get and call it a day, right? Now, look, you and I are performers, and in theory, we have opportunities to meet women, and we've both chosen that we're okay with kind of foregoing that, especially in the future. I'm going to be married, so I've made my choice. So I've chosen not to Leo. Not that I would have been able to fully Leo. Now, if I was able to fully Leo, does Leoing then become more intriguing? But if I can almost Leo, theoretically, I might be able to get to a point in my career. And I've had points where maybe I could kind of Leo. I could have a girlfriend every quarter. And maybe she would kind of be, she'd understand that this is my thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I somehow wouldn't get attached ever. I would never feel like I need her around. I don't know. Do you just need to be mega famous to not need companionship? Like in a way that's lasting? It's such an interesting thing. Do you feel me?
I feel you. I don't know how to put myself in his shoes.
Okay, but let's say, Victoria never existed.
Okay.
You're single and you're doing comedy. And you're doing well, and you're doing these shows, and you're meeting girls after the show, right? And you have an opportunity to kind of spark something up with somebody most of the time after your show if you choose to be social. Now, eventually you're going to end up meeting somebody and spending time with them and whatever. Like, how do you just cycle through people without it being so burdensome that you have this immediate short-term exit strategy constantly? When don't most people feel bad about that? Is he just really transparent? I'm curious about how he executes this. They're just happy to be with him because he's Leo, probably.
I think if you were Leoing, I don't think you'd feel that bad about Leoing because you're Leo and you're constantly working. So you don't have you have the excuse of saying you don't have the time to commit.
Is he though?
I don't know. He's lined up for his next 3 movies.
Right, but it's not like he's shooting for 36 months straight. These shoots are here and there. He has some downtime. You see him doing stuff all the time. And I know he's passionate about the environment, whatever. And when I say Leoing, I don't mean that I'm literally Leo. I just mean that my approach to dating is the same as Leo's, but I have my brain.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so
I'm Julio still.
You're Julio.
All I know is that if I am at some show and I meet some girl who's a babe or whatever, and we go home together and we start hanging out, and I know immediately I don't like people for longer than 3 months or 6 months. So I'm immediately now anxious about the idea that if she's enjoying this, and if I'm Leo, she is, because this is going to be one of the most significant hookups of her life because I am Leo.
Mm-hmm.
And even if I'm not Leo and I'm Julio and I was at this show and we met and in the short term, this might be a good pull for her. A guy who's a performer, I don't want this to sound like I'm jazzing myself up. I'm just trying to be realistic about the situation. Now, in the long term, she might realize that she doesn't want to be with a comedian, or that I'm not as impressive as she thought, or that maybe I don't have my shit together that much either, and I won't be able to provide for her the way that she thinks. So all these things might end up unfolding, but in the short term, she maybe thinks that she wants to do a thing with me, and I don't want to, because I'm Leoing. That situation is going to be the situation more often than the other way around. If you're meeting people in an environment where you're on a pedestal, you have been put on the pedestal and they are going up to get you and they want to stay there. So as they start to slip, they start to act weird, and that doesn't sound fun. I'd rather have sort of a fulfilling partnership. Even if I got to that top level, you can get any girl you want at that point, which to me, at that point, having a partner is even more appealing. And a lot of these celebrities that date celebrities are married to celebrities, and maybe they don't always last, but they get married. Leo, Bachelor. Fucking with AirPods on. The hottest models in the world, quote unquote.
He just has, I guess he has no room for like emotional connection. I could see if I was Leoing in my 20s, I probably would enjoy that, but I get tired of it, and I would want to foster a meaningful relationship pretty much from my pick of the litter. I mean, that sounds wrong, but
I mean, look,
you pretty much you have the opportunity to make a good impression on,
as much
on
as
anybody.
Anyone, as much as anyone, you have your pick of the litter. I'm sure there's some people that might not be into you, but not many.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think it is surprising that Leo's been Leoing this long, because you would think that he'd get tired of it, but maybe he just doesn't have that emotional capability to partner up with somebody. He's just so independent.
Do we think he's cynical? Like, did he get like his heart broken early on, and it's just like really affected his outlook on relationships? Like Danny Palmer, dude. Danny Palmer is out here Leoing, by the way.
Hasn't he said that he's potentially down to not Leo?
Danny has said that,
In
but
the
I
future?
don't see how. His routine is way too rigid. Until he's ready to kind of let go of that a bit, I don't see how Danny could have a relationship at the moment. And he might evolve into it. And the difference between Danny and Leo is that I don't think Danny A's conversion rate is as high as Leo. No offense, Danny. Plus, the pool in which he is sort of operating in, it tends to be like he's trying to infiltrate the toughest scenario as opposed to being more realistic with what he might be capable of doing. But he might be capable of Leoing from a volume perspective if he were to be slightly more realistic.
This turn into the Danny roast
Ripping
episode.
Danny to shreds.
I don't know. I stand by Leoing for a little bit and then trying to get out of it. I have no idea what goes on in Leonardo DiCaprio's head, but when I think of like the greatest actor alive, he's one of the few people that pop into my head, and I feel like you need to be cut from a different cloth mentally to be able to be considered one of the best alive. So I feel like his brain should be studied to find out like wherever the love section in the brain is, like how he computes that. Maybe he loves he has these short-term relationships, but maybe they play out very amicably and pleasant for both parties.
Yeah.
You've never heard anyone come out and say like he abused me. If he's been dating all of these young people, they must be ending okay.
Yeah. And maybe he has like a good fizzle technique. Oh, I'm about to go to North Dakota for 6 months to shoot Scorsese's next whatever.
I got to go play Jesus Christ for a few months. And then I'm going to do Frank Sinatra, so I'm going to be busy. Right.
Yeah, I wonder. But all I'll say to you, Lynch, is that Leoing in your 20s, that ain't Leoing. Leoing is a lifetime of Leoing. What you're discussing is some other phenomenon.
Just being in your 20s?
Perhaps.
Being a playful boy?
Being a playful boy in your 20s. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know, guys. If you know for the most part, women always say that as a guy gets older, you need to be wary of a guy who's never been married. You never heard that?
No.
That's the thing. If there's like a
no one said that to me before.
If there's like a 55-year-old successful, good looking, if there's a guy who's like a candidate, you see that guy, you're like, ooh, that guy's a guy. Does that make sense?
Like, I get where
this
you're.
guy's tall. He's good looking. He's successful. He's 55. He's never been married. Why?
Mm-hmm.
So like, that doesn't apply to Leo though, because he's Leo. You need to be Leo to not have to worry about that.
Because it's named after him.
Because maybe that's true. That could have something to do with it, even though we've just coined it here today.
Mm-hmm.
But Leo, if you need to be a fucking movie star to have that not be a problem for you. I would say even like tycoons, it's sus. Like if you're like a big businessman, you've never been married, I think that women might think that's sus. But like it's not sus for Johnny Depp, even though he was married. Or like Leo is still the prevailing example we're using. And like I said, one per generation. It's looking like our boy PD is poised to be the next one potentially if he can keep up this kind of legendary run he's been on.
Yeah, quite the lineup.
I told him he's gonna have to start eating though, because he maintains his slender figure quite well.
I don't know, dude. I've read that 2024. This is the rat boy summer. I'm not calling PD a rat, but the chicks are loving tall, lanky, and thin guys. And I feel like I think he might have sparked the movement.
No. He doesn't have the rat. He doesn't have the rat face.
No. But I mean the
movement is
the movement to the tall, skinny, lanky guy.
Okay. I don't think so, and I'll tell you why.
Why?
This tall, skinny, lanky guy. Clothes have always fit that guy really well, dude. Think about David Bowie, Mick Jagger, the guy from One Tree Hill or whatever. Not One Tree Hill. Harry Styles. That like skinny andro, whatever. I know Pete is not andro, but like skinny rock star vibe. You look really good in clothes.
It doesn't hurt that people have said that you have a massive cock.
Yeah, having the pecker to match always, and it can help too to be skinny because like to scale, it'll just automatically look bigger too. So it's like adding insult to injury there. But yeah, the Rat Boy Summer was the dudes from Challengers and the Bear.
Yeah, and the guy from Baby Reindeer.
Baby Reindeer.
Yeah. I just think about all these guys shirtless, like the full like Christian Bale, the machinist. Just like,
Yeah.
You want to suck me?
But no, like,
He almost
dude,
died on that set.
that I know, isn't that crazy? He had a cigarette and an apple a day for like 6 months.
That was Joaquin Phoenix for Joker.
I think that
Maybe they both.
Bale
I
had a
know
similar-
Joaquin did that too.
similar diet. That like skinny, jacked look looks really good on camera though.
Mm-hmm.
Like you'll look like a twig in clothes, but then when you have your shirt off, you look really fucking good on camera. It's a really good look.
Yeah,
It's good to be skinny for the camera, dude.
that's a good point. Zac Efron. If I was, I might. And he's such a good-looking dude, but I fear that if I met him in person, knowing how short he is, I would be like, oh, just like not into it as much.
I did.
But he looks great shirtless on camera.
Oh yeah, he's got to be taking shit. He's so huge.
Yeah.
He has some new movie that's out that's supposed to be good. It's about fighting.
Oh, that's the one with the brothers.
Yeah, is it? It's
The
like-
wrestling movie.
Yes,
It's
yes,
on HBO.
Oh, have you watched it?
No, I heard it's really sad. I'm not
sure.
ready for that. Neither of us should watch it while our ladies are out of town.
We need a
Maybe we
triumphant.
should watch it together.
We need a positive wrestling narrative. Okay, we get it. Being a wrestler's tough. Let's make a movie about wrestlers that is not tragic.
Yeah, The Rock is making a wrestling movie or a UFC movie, and it's supposed to also be very, very sad. And he looks completely different.
Well, dude, he's back in wrestling. He's like the bad guy now too, or something.
Yeah,
Which is pretty cool. I like that for him a lot.
I never got to watch the WWE as a kid. I wasn't allowed to.
Oh, interesting.
It was too violent.
I watched WWF after church. There was this quick spat where we went
Right
to church.
after church.
We would go to church because my parents, and it wasn't even like the church. I was like baptized, but then we kind of stopped going to church. Then we started going to like an Episcopal church. My parents were like being kind of experimental, hippy dippy with it. I guess ultimately a positive experience. I didn't really enjoy church. I was too ADD.
Yeah.
But dude, I met Zac Efron.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we hugged, we embraced.
Oh,
Yeah, it was really nice. I was ripping on him. He was in the audience at the show.
really?
Yeah, I had some good burns.
What was his jawline like in
He's good.
person?
He's good. Dude, he didn't look like a little bitch. He looked like the man, and he looked good too.
Yeah.
Like,
Were you into High School Musical? You're too old, or that was like totally weird if you were to watch it.
too old. It
2006.
wasn't even like totally weird. It was just like I was in college, and I would like. It was one of the only times in my life, those first couple of years, where I just didn't. I don't think I had cable for 2 years. So I completely missed societal trends. There was no social media really besides Facebook. There was only you and your friends chatting. So
Yeah, I think High School Musical turned 18 this year.
wow.
Old enough to sleep with.
Nice, Lynch. Does this ever happen to you? Like we moved. There's this thing that I got in Iraq. It was a plaque that they awarded me with. I went to the museum and they decided to use me as a sort of proof that people come here, which was fine. It was just the museum. It wasn't like the Taliban. This was just Iraq, like normal fucking museum guy. So they gave me this little thing. It was cheap, I think, but it had some design on it from like the antiquity stuff. We took a picture and then they gave it to me and I brought it home with me. So I had it in my old apartment. Somehow in the move, it's gone. I've looked everywhere. I'm sure it's somewhere in the apartment, but there's such an odd phenomenon. And I'll find it when I'm least likely to, when I'm looking for something else.
Right when you give up.
It's a small apartment. Like where could it be? Does that ever happen to you? What?
I thought you were looking at me like I took it.
Oh no. If Lynch stole the Iraq plaque, there would be no God. That would make so little sense that I'd be afraid to go outside.
It'd be beer in the backpack round 2.
Oh my God. Yes. I forgot about that.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry that happened.
Yeah, it sucks, right? I'm trying
That
to
is
find
beat.
it. I'm trying to find it. So
I
anyway,
hate losing something.
losing shit sucks.
Can I tell you, I lost about a year ago. I went out with Francis to North Dakota to shoot some content, and I brought my personal camera, my DSLR. It's like $1,000. You already know where this is going. We ended up not using my camera at all, and it was just me and him. And so I had the 2 tripod bags at the airport, and I have the big bag from like Barstool's closet, and I have my backpack, and I have my suitcase. And somewhere along the way, my camera bag, my personal camera bag, just when I got home and was looking through everything the next day, just didn't have it. I called the airport, and just like we talked about with like calling like NJ Transit about AirPods, I filled out this massive form that I knew.
The airport's usually good about it too.
I filled out this massive form that I just knew. I was like, I'm going to do this because I will be able to say that I did it, but they're totally not going to find it. And I had to wait a month. And they didn't have it. And then I called the location that we went to shoot the thing. They didn't have it. And now my someone just has my camera.
It took a time to give up hope, though.
No, I knew within like 5 days it was gone. And that made me feel so small and so incapable as a person when you lose something. I'm not saying that you losing that made you feel like that, but just when something goes missing. Like, it seems like yours, it wasn't your fault. It just, like, disappeared. I left my thing behind, or I fucked up in some way, and I was just too over-flustered with so many bags to carry that I lost my amazing camera. And I don't deserve to replace it.
Well, dude, like, when you're traveling with bags, it's really easy to lose shit because you're just not used to having all this stuff. Like, it's easy if you're just wearing the same pair of pants, you have all the same stuff, like you're not going to lose shit. But if you like wear a new pair of pants, or if you're in transit or something, it's like easy to leave shit behind. So don't beat yourself up about it.
Yeah.
You got a turkey of the week for us. What is it? Let's hear it.
Oh yeah. All right. This is don't know who is the turkey in this situation. Man arrested for flipping off a trooper gets $175K after the First Amendment lawsuit. So there was a man in Vermont. He flipped off a police officer. He gets pulled over by the cop, and the cop's like, you can't do that. And then the guy was like, I didn't flip you off. So this was a miscommunication. The officer was like, okay, my mistake. The officer leaves, and as the driver pulls away, he rolls down the window, and he screams, fuck you, and he flips off the cop, and then the cop arrested him.
Interesting.
And that was a couple years ago, and they just reached a settlement, and the guy was awarded $175,000.
Wow.
So who is the turkey in this situation? The officer that arrested the guy, or the guy that flipped him off twice and is getting paid?
We need to talk more about this story first. So I've always wondered that, like, when there's a cop in front of you and it's a green light, but they're still sitting there, you don't honk because it's a cop. You don't want the smoke. But I've always wondered if there's some rule against that. Like, I don't think there's a rule where you can't flick someone off. Is that considered to be some sort of assault? I don't think so. Is saying fuck you verbal assault? Maybe. But like, I don't know. So read me some of the details. Like, how do they reach that ruling? Because if you say fuck you to a cop, like, that can be taken as some sort of threat, maybe. I don't know. Read some of these deets.
That's a good point. I'm reading in here, it's his First Amendment right. He has the right to say fuck you to the cop, which is crazy. And then this guy just seemed like this guy was just looking for a fight. Like, he wanted to do it. And he wanted the smoke, and he knew that he was going to get away with it, I guess. But the lawyer here said
he got arrested.
He got arrested.
So short term, he did not get away with it.
Yeah, but now he has $175,000. Got to pay the lawyer. But the lawyer says, while our client is pleased with this outcome, this incident should never have happened in the first place. Police need to respect everyone's First Amendment rights, even for things they consider offensive or insulting. I don't know. So I guess police officers are some of the only people that aren't allowed to react if you say fuck you to them.
Are you allowed? Okay.
Let's clip that. People are going to love that.
Wait, so let's look up some more information. Are you allowed to say fuck you to anybody? Is telling someone to fuck off a crime?
First Amendment.
Yeah, but I see the headline. But like you can't call somebody a racial slur. That's assault. I think verbal assault exists. And it should. You shouldn't be able to call people racial slurs.
It's a hate crime.
Boom. Okay. So, all right. So that's a hate crime. So fuck you is not a hate crime. Fuck you is there a scenario where you can't say fuck you to someone?
No, the definition of a hate crime, let's just look at that real quick. A crime, typically one involving violence that is motivated by prejudice on the basis of ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, or similar grounds. So not occupation.
Okay, but like hate crime, it wouldn't be hate crime in any. I don't see it being a hate crime. It would be more of like some sort of verbal assault.
I know, but hate crime is like the one way that you could get in trouble for saying something.
Well,
it's the only thing that doesn't that the First Amendment doesn't condone is hateful speech.
Okay, what about verbal abuse? Verbal abuse, also known as verbal aggression, verbal attack, verbal violence, verbal assault, psychic aggression, or psychic violence, is a type of abuse that involves the use of oral, gestured, and written language directed to a victim, aka the finger and saying "fuck you" to someone, right? Like I don't necessarily agree, but I'm just curious. Like verbal aggression, abuse. Let's see, is verbal.
So a middle finger is considered expressive conduct, and the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled it is entitled to the same protection as verbal expression.
Got it. So check this out. I found a good addition to that. Verbal abuse is not a crime in and of itself. It can easily turn into one if it includes threats of bodily harm. So you can say, fuck you, but you can't say, I'm gonna fuck you.
Can you say go fuck yourself? Because it would hurt if you fucked yourself.
I wonder, Lynch. Okay, so it makes sense. So saying fuck you to the cops with the middle finger falls under some sort of First Amendment rule. And guess what, dude? I think that the cop is the turkey.
I do too.
And I'll tell you why. Cops are able to sort of abuse their power a lot of the time, famously and maybe not so famously. And, you know, if they're able to do that, the idea that they can just like pull you in for something that they're not allowed to pull you in for bothers me. They're not above the law. They're supposed to enforce the law. And therefore, that was a failure on that cop's part to do his job. He should have taken the finger like a man instead of being a little bitch about it. And instead, the police department had to cough it up.
Yeah.
He probably didn't get any sort of slap on the wrist for it, though.
No. I think you, because if that was one of my guys, I would be, if that was one of my guys, I would be like, oh, fucking technicality loophole bullshit. Come here, Dave. No, we got to pay that up. We love you, but just don't let it get to your head next time. But that guy, he's very opportunistic, the one that got the money.
Yeah, good for him.
And so you can flip off whoever you want, old people, anybody. You'll get away with it.
Maybe he was baiting him because he knew.
Maybe he was genuinely like planning this out. He's like, I can get
I love
paid.
the idea of that. So, dude, on film sets, there's this thing where there's certain people who famously, they're like lawyers or something, and they know all the rules. So they know exactly what they're allowed to do and aren't allowed to do, and they act within those guidelines. So you basically can't tell them anything. If he's standing there right next to you, he knows he's allowed to be there. So what some of these directors will do with these kind of guys is they'll be really nice to them on purpose because they don't want a problem. So they'll tell everybody like, hey, so-and-so is going to be loitering. He's within his rights to do it. We can't tell him not to. Be nice to him or he'll cause problems for us. Wow. That's wild to have that kind of power.
That is power. I would love to do
Knowledge
that.
is power. I'd love to like
just get
really
paid.
understand the law.
Loophole payments.
Yeah, right? Loophole payments.
Oh.
So anyway, I got one last little story that I was thinking of before we head out here.
Whoa, real quick. Do you color code your screen?
Yes.
I just want to see. Okay. We're not going to, that's really nice. We're not going to include that in the podcast. That's just for me.
Too personal.
That's just for me.
Continue.
Okay.
Okay, so I was flossing the other day and I remember this fun little thing that happened in Afghanistan. One of my boys in Afghanistan, the guy who was with us pretty much the whole time, I saw him flossing his teeth with string, with like literal string. And I was like, Jesus, dude. I was like, do you want like a flosser? He's like, what's that? I was like, just wait. So you know what I'm talking about, the little plastic flossers where you can kind of, it helps you get in there. So I gave it to him, and he was like, oh, and he started using it. He's like, this is amazing. I was like, I know. 4 days later, we're chilling, and he pulls it out of his pocket and goes, and then I'm like, dude, those are intended to be used once.
He like smiles at you after that, and his mouth is bleeding.
I'm like, dude, that is intended to be used one time. You're not supposed to be fucking ripping it in there. So anyway, shout out to him, and interesting to see what tools people do and don't know about depending on where you travel around.
Yeah, that's nice.
Shout out to the flossers, and shout out to keeping your teeth clean. They say flossing is one of the healthiest things you can do.
Mm-hmm.
So floss it up, folks.
Did you floss as a kid?
Not really. No.
I never flossed as a kid.
I floss religiously now. Even as an adult, I was kind of lax about it at one point, but now I floss religiously. It's not worth the smoke.
Not worth the smoke.
Anyway, Oops the Podcast, buy some merch. OopsThePodcast.com for the merch. OopsThePodcast@gmail.com for emails. Let us know your thoughts. We love hearing from you. Let us know what you're thinking about. We'll talk about it on the pod if it is worthy. Come check me out in New York City, the 18th of July at the Stand, 3rd of August at Ice House Pasadena, and the 20th and 21st of September in St. Pete at Coastal Creative. Like, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. Not Julio G on Snap and TikTok. What about you, Lynch?
Ryan is really polite. I think we should ask the people that are watching the YouTube version to leave a comment for like a random question.
Oh, yeah, you can do that.
Like, what's your favorite dipping sauce? Let us know in the comments.
Nice. I like
Just
that.
that's like a checkpoint to let us know that like you listened all the way through.
And
And we appreciate you guys the most.
We sure do.
Take care.